Hello everyone. Hi. My name is Roy Cornwall. Welcome to a Christian channel. Today is Tuesday the 19th of September at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Hello everyone. Um, I used to tell stories around the campfire, around the bonfire, and this is one that I remember telling from a long time ago, and I hope you enjoy it. It's about a man and his dog, but not like you think. So, uh, I used to live in Toronto, Ontario, but I had a cottage that was on the west coast of Hudson Bay. I'm not going to tell you exactly where this is. I value my property there. I value my privacy. So, pretty well every night, I would sit out front of my little cottage there, and I had a dog, and his name was Tippy. This dog looked like a black lab with a little bit of white on his chest here, except he was mixed with spaniel, so he looked a little bit smaller. But Tippy was very intelligent. This dog could swim underwater 20 feet down. I had a trail bike at the time. He'd run in front of my trail on the path, and if the path widened, he stopped and he looked back over his shoulder, and with my helmet, I'd go this way or that way. And whichever way I went, he would tear off again down that path. Now, if I made a mistake, I wouldn't find my dog. He'd be a mile down that path in front of me, right? He was very intelligent, this dog, but also very loving, right? So I got a really nice fire going. I built a fire like 2 or 3 teepees on top of each other, so when it lit up the whole area. There was flames like 6 feet high at least, right? So Tippy, like I used to have to drag him away from the fire because he used to like the fire, the heat, right? So we're sitting there, we've had our supper, we're full. I got some popcorn there, and Tippy's eating the popcorn, and I'm eating the popcorn. And I'm looking at the stars. I'm looking for UFOs, basically, and you can't get enough of the sky anyways. I had a pair of 50 power, 10 by 50 binoculars there, in case something I could see, and every night I'd sit around the fire either playing my guitar or something, right? So, one night, this is way late, like I'm tired, I'm not playing the guitar, I'm not eating, I'm just sitting in the chair. And I had one of these lawn chairs where it had the foot part on it, so Tippy crawl up between my legs and lie on top of me. And we're lying there. And because I'm looking straight, I leaned the lawn chair down in a lying position, I'm looking straight up. And I see a white light. It's moving. I said to myself, that's got to be a satellite. It's got to be. I don't believe in aliens, but I'm looking for them anyways. I've never seen anything. This light started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when it got big enough that it became alarming to me, I shoot Tippy down and I stood up. Now, Tippy knew I was alerted on something. And he's looking around like laterally to make sure. And when the danger was there, he looked at me, and he saw me looking way up, and I pointed like this. And Tippy took his eyes off me and pointed at this light. Now this light's so close to me, it's getting bigger. It looks to be about the size of a big beach ball right now, but it's still a ways off. I said, is that an asteroid? I'm like, am I going to die here? Well, it was moving too slow for an asteroid, so I ruled that out. I'm not one to run from danger, and Tippy's certainly not a dog that's afraid of anything, nothing. Well, when Tippy got mad, his hair on his back used to stand up like an Iroquois cut all the way down, and he would turn into a different animal. He was a really bad dog when he wanted to be, right? So him and I are sitting there, and he comes over, he sits beside me, and I'm standing there, and I got my hand down by his hand like this, And this lake is so big. Now it's really, I figure I'm going to die. Right? But I could see it slowing down. It got close enough that the white light went away, and I saw it was an alien spaceship. Just like in the movies. I'm saying to myself, well, you know, they just came across the galaxy. If they want to be dead, I'd be dead. So I'm assuming at this point that they don't want to harm me. They just want to know something, right? So they land. Now I got Tippy's collar. Right? I'm not letting him go. And it looked like a Nordic. He was tall, blonde hair, and there was a woman that followed him out. She had long blonde hair, and both were very handsome, beautiful people. So my fears at the start was high, but now it's dropping off because I can see they don't mean any harm. They're smiling and they're walking out towards us. Tippy's not acting up right now. He figures this is like a car pulled up and people got out, and if they were a danger, he would know. He's not responding to anything. So this being, I just watched them. I've watched a bunch of alien movies, you know, and so, you know, I sort of had a feeling that this thing could happen. But man, when it happens right in front of you, it's shocking. It really is. So the first thing he says to me, he says, we're not going to harm you. We don't want to take anything from you. We just want to know you. This is in my head. They're not talking with their mouth. This is in my head. And, you know, I think that Tippy could hear that too in his head. So he wanted to know about stupid things like love and why I have this animal, and does, you know, I told him about the love relationship between us and how Tippy would protect me if anything harm happened, and I would protect him with my life. We're a team here, right? And he's shaking his head. He's going, yeah. He says, that sounds good to me. He says something like that. He says, that's the way we think. That's what he says. That's the way we act. He said, no. So after about an hour or two, even, I was telling him how to cook meals and what baseball was, and he was very interested in hockey. He was very interested in hockey. I guess maybe because I got excited when I started talking. But it came time, he said, yeah, I've got to go, right? And I said, it's been my pleasure to speak with you. And Tippy, now I don't have to hold on to Tippy because we've been there for 2 hours, and Tippy would walk over to him, and he's patting the Tippy, and Tippy's rolling on his back wanting belly rubs and stuff. You know what I mean? This is a good encounter here. So after rubbing Tippy's belly, and he says, we got to go. He says, can I leave something with you? I said, well, you don't have to give me anything. I said, as far as I know, we're friends, right? You don't have to pay me to be your friend. He says, good answer. So he reached out with his right hand. I thought he wanted to shake my hand. So I reached out with my hand, and with this part of my hand, you slide your hand into the other man's hand. I did that, and I looked right into his eyes, and I squeezed and shook his hand. And as I'm shaking his hand, a white light came down from his head, down his arm, and right into my arm, and right into my whole body. I glowed. Tippy started growling, right? Tippy came over to me, and the man reached down to pat Tippy, and that happened to Tippy too. Tippy got solid white. We both passed out in front of the fire. And when we woke up, these beings were gone, and so was the ship, right? We weren't hurt in any way. It was just like sleeping. We woke up. I checked. Everything's normal. Tippy's not hurt. I checked him over. I'm not hurt. My guitar's sitting right there. There's no damage. So, I just let this go. And nobody's going to believe me, right? So I just let this go. A couple of weekends went by. Every weekend I'd go to this cottage, every weekend. It was a long drive. Sometimes I stayed there for a month, like with my holidays, right? And I don't remember if this was a monthly holiday or a weekend. But Tippy and I are sitting out back of my cottage, right? And Tippy's sleeping. And I could hear there's something big walking in the bush across this dirt road on the other side. Tippy, when he snapped the bush, I guess when this thing walked on, I thought it might have been a moose or something, right? A grizzly bear, one that's like 6 times the size of a human, stepped out of the bush. And I didn't bring my gun out to fire that night because it's very rarely do I need it. It's in the house, right? And I stood up, and this thing made 4 or 5 steps right towards me. I knew if I went for the car, I wasn't going to make it. Now that bear stopped on the road, and I'm standing beside the chair that I was sitting in, and Tippy's awake now, and I got him by the collar, right? This bear makes a bear charge at us. And I was scared. And so was Tippy. Something happened with Tippy first. It happened with Tippy first and then me. But Tippy, he grew in size to bigger than a horse. And the muscles on him he was like the Hulk. His teeth were like 6 times as long. And I could see they didn't look like porcelain; they looked like steel. Tippy jumped out between me and the grizzly, and he ducked his head down, and his hair stood up like this on his back, and he squatted a bit, and he showed his teeth, and that bear stopped in his tracks. Right, Tippy was every bit as strong as that bear was, right, and that bear knew it, right. Now, the bear wasn't going to back off. So Tippy and the bear, they got into it. Now, the bear's getting the worst of this, but while this is happening, something happened to me. I'm 6 foot, 190 pounds at that time. I'm a little bit more now. But I grew to about 12 feet tall, and I had arms on me the size of a telephone pole. I was 10 times stronger than I was. I looked like Arnold, basically. And when I got mad, something triggered, like it was like chemical flow in me changed. I could feel it, and I just turned into another beast. I mean, I was still Roy. I could still think and do everything, but when I wanted to attack, I attacked at a level that I never thought I could. Right. So this thing, because Tippy had him by the tail, right? And the bear was trying to turn around again. So as he turned around, I got the bear in a headlock like this, and I crunched him like this, and it broke his neck. I didn't mean to break his neck, but I didn't understand what was happening with me. So when the bear hit the ground and he stopped moving, right, and everything was silent again, Tippy swelled down into Tippy again. But it took me a bit longer. But eventually I shrunk down to my 6 foot size and normal again, right? Absolutely normal. Most of the clothes that I had on were ripped up because of the size of me, right? The only thing that wasn't was I had a bathing suit on, and it was stretchable. So that was the only thing I had left on, right? I said, Tippy, that's enough for tonight, right? I said, we left the bear there, and Tippy and I ran into the cottage, right? Now I could hear the other animals. They were feasting on this beast. Wolves, and coyotes, and all kinds of animals were out there feasting on this thing. There wasn't much left of them in the morning when we went out. But yeah, I'm saying to myself, should I go back into the city? Should I bring Tippy back into the city like this? Right? For me, it's like being the Hulk. Because I got mad, I got scared was his trigger. But if I'm scared, this is what brought this on. Not my being mad. I could be mad. I tried this test a couple of times and nothing would have happened, right? So okay, we stayed up there. I think it was almost for 3 weeks. Nothing happened. Nothing again ever happened. So I said, okay, we get in the car, we come home. And I had a house with a 2 acre plot. It wasn't much land, but it was, a bit of land there I could do things with, right? I had a garden. I did a lot of work. It was nice place, right? Now I had a girlfriend, and her name was Elizabeth, and she'd come and visit me. She never lived there, but she'd come and visit me. And when there was like a long driveway. Tippy saw her, knew it was her, and he would run down and run beside the car all the way up. Stop. She'd get out. Tippy get. You know what dogs are like. She'd give Tippy kisses and stuff. I'd run over and I'd kiss her hello, and she'd go in the house and start making supper for me. Right. Well, somebody followed her. It was one of her old boyfriends followed her to my place, and he pulled up the driveway, and Tippy saw this car, and he didn't know this car. So Tippy alerted me. He does this by barking a special bark, like a big low wolf bark, right? And I went out to meet this gentleman because I figured he's in trouble. I never met him before. He gets out of the car, and he's a big man. He's just a really big man. Elizabeth saw him coming, and I'm on my way out there. She yells, "Be careful with him! He'll attack you." Well, now my senses are up, right? And Tippy's right beside me. He senses trouble. He senses it before I do. So he's getting out of his car, and I'm at the front of his, or off to the side, but just off the front of his car. He says, "Where's Elizabeth?" I said, "I don't think she wants to talk to you." He says, "She's my girl." I said, "I don't think so. I think she's my girl." So it's going to be on now, and I know this, right? So he slams the door on the car so hard it broke the window. That's when it all started. Tippy changed first. His senses are always so heightened. He changed first. And when he changed, this guy, he went into his car to get a gun, right? But he didn't make it into the car. Tippy grabbed him. Tippy grabbed him by the leg and dragged him out into the field. And he's looking at me like this, wagging his tail like he's got a bone in his mouth, right? So Tippy's, when he's in this mode, he can understand what I'm saying. It's like a mental. I said, "Just throw him in the pond." But Tippy shook him a bit and threw him into the pond, right? Well, he didn't like that. But I said, "I think you should stay there, because if you get out, he'll get mad, right?" Well, he climbs out on the shore, and his cell phone was still working. I don't think he got it too wet. So he calls his buddies, and 3 or 4 buddies come over, right? Well, some of them had guns, and they took a shot at Tippy, right, on my property. I got fearful for Tippy, so I lost him. And I grew into this other beast, right? And I was so strong that I took his car, the car they were in, and I bashed the roof right down to the ground, so the car, it went like this. It was like this. They couldn't drive the car, right? And meanwhile, Tippy's trying to, deflect these bullets, because Tippy had like armor on. He was a battle dog. I don't know if I looked like that. I never really saw myself in the mirror, but I could see him, and the bullets were bouncing off him, and they're firing like crazy. So Tippy makes a leap. He gets a hold of one guy's rifle and he bites it right in half. The other 3 guys see that, and they start running down the road out of there, right? Tippy wasn't going to let him go. He ran down past him and got to the gate and wouldn't let him pass. So I walked up behind him in a very deep voice, because I'm about 12 feet tall now, and I grabbed the 2 guys like this around the waist, and I said, "Look, don't come back here. Don't tell this story to anybody. If you do, we will seek you out and we will dismember you." And I held the ringleader. I held his face right up close to Tippy. Tippy's teeth are like this, right? And he's slobbering. He's growling. This guy, he wet himself right there. So before he got it on me, I threw him down, and I called Tippy over. I said, "Don't come back. Don't tell anybody. And if you do, we'll seek you out." He goes, "No, no, no." Don't worry. So I get a tow truck and get this piece of crap out of here. So they phoned, the tow truck came, took this. Tow truck doesn't know anything about this. He just saw the vehicle. He says to me, "How did this happen?" I said, "A tree fell on it." Right? I did that with one blow. Right? One blow. So things are happening normal like now for almost a year, and I hear a doorbell on my front porch. Tippy hears it. He runs to the door. It's a general, a military Canadian general. He says, "Are you Roy Cornwell?" I says, "Yes, I am." He says, "Is this Tippy?" I says, "Yes, it is." I'm wondering, how does he know Tippy, right? He says, "Can I come in? I'd like to talk to you." He was polite enough about it, and I knew Tippy's here with me and everything. I had nothing for him. He came in, he sat on the couch. I gave him a can of pot because it was a hot day. The fan was there, I put the fan on because he's in full uniform. And he says, "Word's gotten back to me about what happened here a month ago." I said, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "We got the car that you crushed in our custody." And he says, the two men, we put them under arrest. But the bite marks on the one man wasn't from a normal dog. So I'm here to get some explanations from you on what's going on here. So I told him, as general, I told him the whole story about the spaceship planet, about what they did to us, and how we have to be fearful for it to come out. But we still know what we're doing. It's not like we turn into a raging animal. It's just that we don't have to be fearful anymore. He goes, "Yeah." He says, "That makes sense. That jives with everything I know." He says, "You're telling me the truth," he says. I said, "Well," "oh, we're not looking for anything special, but to be left alone." He says, "Okay, right." He says, and he's patting Tippy through all this, right? He says, "Look, one day we may need your help. We may need your help. Would you be willing to help us?" I said, "Is this for Canada?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, absolutely. Tippy and I will help with what we can do. If there's a situation for it," I said. He said, "Thank you." He gave me his card, and he says, on the card's an email address. He says, "You can get in touch with me there." And I gave him my email address. He says, "I'm going to be sending you some things through the email. Keep you updated about everything," he says. So, apparently, their black projects, without going into a 2-hour program, they were in a fight on the moon for possession of the moon. The Nordics, and there was a couple other races there. I can't remember who they were, but they looked like lizards. They were good guys, but the bad guys, they looked like a moth head. That's the best way I can explain it. And that's who we were fighting. This was over a base on the moon. It was the base is hollow. There's a huge moon, hollow space on the back side of the moon. And the front side of the moon is all rock like normal. That's why it doesn't spin. The front side's got all the gravity, and the back side's hollow. It's got nothing. So this side always stays tidal locked to the Earth. And he said, I said, "When's this going on? Is this happening right now?" He says, "Right now," he says. "We're losing men up there. These moss creatures are. There's a lot of them." I said, "Well, there's no air on the moon, right?" He says, "There is in this cavity." He says, "Would you be willing to come and help us?" I said, what would be our mandate?" He says, "To kill every one of these moth things." When I said that, you could tell that he's lost a lot of people. He was in pain, but he was mad. I said, "Well, how do we get there?" He says, "I'll have a ship come and pick you up," he said. So I said, "What about weapons or anything? Like, are you going to just send us there? You know?" He says, whatever you want, we'll make it happen for you. I said, well, that makes it a little bit better. So we get on board the spaceship. Tippy and I were headed towards the moon. It doesn't take long to get there. But in the armory of this spaceship, we start pulling out our weapons. Now, the weapons I picked out were not for a 6-foot man. They're for this other creature. Right? So I suggested and they didn't want to do this, but I suggested to them that they find a way to scare Tippy and I. And they did. They brought this hologram of a creature out, and Tippy instantly changed, and so did I. He says, now that you're this side, go down to the armory and pick out weapons you need. This is, it takes us a while to come back from this. Once we're in that big boat, it takes us a while. So while we're there, we went down and I got a samurai sword, a laser pistol, a laser rifle I had in my hands. There were some grenades. Now Tippy, he had battle armor, right? When he had this armor on, I couldn't touch him because it would cut me. He was like a walking razor to this thing. I said to the man who was putting it on, I said, look, when he gets mad, his hair goes up like this. He says, that's good because the armor was like this and it left a spot for the hair to go up like, Now Tippy's skin was like steel anyways, right? Tippy's nails were razor sharp. And he had traction. This beast could run up walls and stuff. He was fast as lightning and just as vicious. We get to the opening on this thing in the ship, and they butt the ship up against the opening, so we didn't have to change, put air on it or anything. I mean, we just walked right in, and they saw us, and they started cheering. Right? The humans all started cheering because they knew now we got some muscle coming for this fight. They kept checking. Everybody's pointing. Go this way. Go this way. Tippy gets down to where these Mothmen are. Right? They're firing a weapon, but they won't penetrate my armor or Tippy's armor. Tippy started growling. Well, there's stages to Tippy, right? But he just jumped right to the last stage. He started to slobber. His teeth were huge, right? And his hair was up, and he was sort of squatting, and he's crawling like just really slowly, deflecting bullets as he goes. And at the last second, he leaped. It must have been about 50 feet, 60 feet. He leaped, and he landed right in the middle of these guys. And there's an awful lot of them. I couldn't count them, but there's an awful lot of them. Now, Tippy's right in the middle of these guys, and I could hear them dying like crazy. So I jumped in there, too. I said, wherever Tippy goes, I follow him. I had the samurai, and I was cutting them. And we stayed there fighting for a good day like that, Tippy and I. We had more, of course, behind us, the rest of the humans followed in to the war. But finally we got down to their headquarters in this cave, where they had their command post. And I guess I call him a general. I don't know what he is. He's there directing, right? And I said to Tippy, I said, go fetch it. Tippy wagged his tail like I threw the ball for him, right? I said, go get him. And Tippy leaped. He got him by the waist, right? Picked him up. And this guy's whacking Tippy, and Tippy don't care. The tail's wagging. He's got him. He brings him over, and he drops him right in front of me, right? And I leaned way over because I'm 12 feet tall. And I grabbed him around the waist, and I put him right up to my face. Right, yes, and I said, you're going to leave. This moon does not belong to you. It belongs to Earth people. I said, if you don't leave, I'm going to rip your head right off your body. And he's all panicky. He says, okay. I said, how many ships do you have? He says, I got 2. 2 left functional. Can you get all your people on there? Yes. I put him down. I says, if you make any other move other than straight towards that ship, Tippy's going to eat you alive, starting with your head. Well, right about now, I think these aliens are figuring out they shouldn't have messed with humans, right? So they all lined up nice and slow. I said, slow. As one guy started moving, I said, go slow. And when he didn't listen to me, Tippy started growling and looking at him, right? And he slowed right down. They all walked onto their ship, and they all left. We won't see them back again, I said to the general who walked upon the scene. I said, we're not going to see them again. So he says, what do we do now? You're still 12 feet tall and Tippy's huge. I said, well, we got to calm down. How about something to eat? And a place to slide down and be relaxed. And we found a nice spot, and they brought out some Tippy. They brought out like a half a cow for this animal. You don't fool with Tippy when he's in this mode. He's chomping bones and everything. You know. Well, he was full, and they brought milk for him because he liked milk, and he was full. He burped a couple of times. He'd lying down, and we started a little fire just like in front of the cottage. So Tippy liked that, and I sat there until we shrunk down to normal. We got back on the spaceship, went back, and they landed right in front of my cottage. And as we're getting off, he says, thank you, Roy. Thank you, Tippy. He says, if there's anything we can ever do for you, anything at all, he said, just name it. I told him about a troublesome neighbor. That problem went away. And I said, you know, I'm having a problem financially. How about you give me food once a month, do an airdrop or something here for us? And he did that too. So we stayed online with these people for a very long time. Very long time. And the general, he's like, we're his secret weapon. So he was all smiles when he saw us. Yeah. So that's the story. And the next time you see something in the sky, and it's moving, and you don't think it's a satellite, it very well could be the Nordics or one of our friends keeping an eye on us. Blessings, everybody. Blessings for everyone, because this can be a little scary, and I don't mean to scare the kids. So, by God's awesome grace, by Jesus Christ's overflowing love, by the support and education the Holy Spirit gives us, and the protection Archangel Michael gives us, we'll all meet together down the road in heaven. Blessings, everyone. Bye-bye.